Okay, so as you heard, my name's Nigel Papworth. I'm from the Interactive Institute in Umeå, and I'm just going to go through a little tiny bit of boring stuff to begin with. For those that don't know, we're part of something called RISE, which is Research Institutes of Sweden. So we're kind of allied with a whole bunch of different research institutes. The Interactive Institute itself is spread throughout Sweden. So we have, we're up where that green dot is. You're down about the middle of here if you don't know your Sweden. We have one studio that's north of us and then a few other studios that are mainly out around the middle. Okay, our particular studio are 9 people, and in that they're represented, basically half are Swedish and the rest of us are a really weird mixture of different nationalities, so Dutch, Italian, Canadian, American, and me. I'm English, but I've lived in Sweden for 27 years, so I'm actually been here longer than in England. So we're we're based on the Umeå Arts campus, so we work very closely with these departments that are part of the kind of art section of the university, which is really good for us because we get access to all of their workshops and stuff. We work with interaction design, so our main concern is not inventing new technologies. We really like misusing existing technologies to actually affect the way people behave towards information and technology. So you could say that we're all about information flow and about interactive, so active consumption. And by that we mean that the people that are using it should be active, okay? So we design for pull, not push. We're really concerned that we want people to have to actually work to get the information that we want them to experience. And there are a bunch of different psychological reasons which I'm not going to go into to do with that. So we have like 4 keys to interaction. Curiosity, so we need to get the person obviously interested. Content, there has to be some kind of content there. Control, so the user feels that they are influencing what's going on and allowing them to contribute as well. So I'm going to talk about this installation we did called the Ballade of Women, which doesn't actually do most of those things. It does something completely different, but I'll get into that. It's a joint project with these 4 different, well, it's us as an institute, the University of Siena, the University of Technology in Eindhoven, and I'm not even going to try and say that, but it's a foundation in Siena that were really good to us, and I'll get into why that was later. So basically the University of Siena came to us and said, can you design an installation that reflects human rights and women's rights especially from a historical perspective? And we had a big discussion with them, and we realized that the focus should be on this idea of fragmentation and marginalization of women, and that was basically the job we got given. We were then told that we were going to be in the crypt at the back of this, which is the cathedral in Siena, and there's 2 crypts at the back, and the other one was going to be this painting, which is a Caravaggio, which they're not quite sure if it's Isaac or if it's John the Baptist. So there's a lot of academic discussion about what it actually represents. So this was what we were given as a subject matter, which was a bit strange because obviously it's not very women-y. But that's what we had to do. So we kind of had this discussion and we said we have to find some kind of key to what we're going to do. So, the thing we're trying to do has to be artistic and poetic. It had to be informative and stimulative, so it had to really stimulate people's minds. It had to be unexpected and intriguing. And it had to be sensitive to the subject and also kind of reflecting back on the historical aspects that are around what we were trying to discuss and what we were trying to profile. So we looked for a key word, and the key word we kind of fixed on was this idea of fragmentation. So basically we started saying, well, how can we make something really interesting out of a painting referring to this painting that was going to be in the next room. So I started looking at theories of perspective, which is kind of like an old historical artistic thing as well. And what we did is we basically chopped the painting up. I mean, not the real one, obviously. But then allowed the viewer a point of view where it would all kind of jigsaw together. So this meant scaling it over distance. So obviously things that are further away from you have to be bigger if they're going to fit together as a jigsaw from one particular sweet point where your point of view was. So what we showed the client was this. And most of this project was done in high-end, basically film special effects programming, but using it completely the wrong way. So doing really, really quick, dirty stuff in it, just to give a general impression, because we were trying to describe something that we didn't know what it was going to be. We wouldn't see it finished until we actually built it at the place because of the complexity of it. So all we could do was like test it with little bits of cardboard and little bits of paper and do these kind of things. So then the Catholic Church got involved. And the bishopric, so I don't know if it was the bishop himself, but somebody in there said, women's rights are too controversial for the Catholic Church. You're no longer welcome. So we put a whole bunch of work into this and we weren't allowed to be at the cathedral. And this had two kind of aspects to it. One was not so good, which was it's a really good place to be and there's a lot of people flow through there. The other was really, really good because the brilliant professor at Siena University found us very, very quickly this other location, which is here, the Fondazione Monte dei Paschi, which is this building. Amazing, amazing building. And inside it's like gold, cream baroque with crazy chandeliers. And they gave us a really, really nice room. And they also happen to have a really, really good collection of art. So the huge benefit to us is we could go in and pick whichever bits we wanted to use. And they basically said, we'll move all the paintings down, the paintings you pick, we'll move them and put them into a room adjacent to it. So it was kind of the same concept as we had going at the cathedral. So we had to find new subject matter. So now we had a much bigger choice. So we basically picked this one, which is Cleopatra. This, which is Santa Lucia. And this, which is a portrait of Mary Magdalene. And I'm not going to go into it now, but each of these had a very, very specific historical kind of reflection on the idea of women's rights and what's happened to the way women are portrayed through history. So then we had to redesign the whole thing. So basically we started just looking at how we were going to chop them up. And the idea was that we would do each of these pieces in white perspex, which we would laser cut. And we would then project onto them. Okay, so we just did a whole bunch of little, and these are like a couple of hours to do one of these. We're just throwing together really, really simple stuff just to test the idea. And then we presented a new version of the sketch. So this doesn't actually represent what the finished thing looks like that closely, but it gives the impression of what we were trying to get at. And then we could use the CAD models we'd done to actually work out the distances, because trying to get these sweet spots is really tricky. If I'd done it on paper, it would have been an absolute nightmare. But what we were able to do is actually measure everything really, really accurately, and then we pre-built perspex panels and put little motors on them which are turning these panels. So all of these panels are turning as you're experiencing the thing. So all of the bits were cut out of perspex using a laser cutter, so they'd be transparent, so it wouldn't be like too much visible technology there. You can see it, but it's kind of like half there. And then we had to test it, so we basically ran a motor for 2 days with a litre of water hanging off it. We're very high tech. Okay, so the finished thing looks like this. Okay, so we have the hanging panels. Okay, we have the panels you've just seen with the motors attached on them and the Arduino microcontrollers. We then custom built an aluminium frame. We then placed around it 3 towers, and in the towers there was a computer, a projector, one of these, which is a directional speaker, and a light show at the top, which basically took colours from the paintings that were, and the information that was being shown on the screens and lit the whole room with that, so off the chandelier. So we tried to make the room part of the actual display. And then comes the tricky bit. Our idea was that we didn't want the information to be available to the people viewing it. So we designed this to actually avoid showing the information to the people. So as you went in, the panels turn away from you. Okay, unless you're on your own and you stand still, in which case they will suddenly turn towards you and it will show the painting for a very, very short period of time, and then it will disappear again. And we're projecting stuff from Twitter and from the internet onto this at the same time. And I've got a film at the end which will kind of show you what it looked like. The directional speakers we placed in these, and they're basically bouncing off the rotating panels. So we're doing the same thing with the audio that we're doing with the visuals. We're making it very fragmentary, it's really hard to get hold of, it's avoiding you, it's like bouncing all around the room. It was weird as shit, I tell you. Okay, so this just shows the zones that we had. So the three colours of the three zones where you could stand. So if you're more than one person in that, then you wouldn't see the painting. But if you were standing there on your own, so it was a kind of negotiation of the people in the space as well. So you had to be aware of where the other people were and keep this kind of weird flow going. So just about directional sound, I don't know how many of you used it. These things are normally used as sound showers. So you mount them on the roof pointing downwards. We don't like doing that. We like completely misusing it. So what I did, or what we did, if I can just get this thing to work, is we did kind of like this. So we were actually using the panels to rotate the audio around the room. Okay, and I'm deliberately not using, we have people reading poetry in the actual thing, I'm deliberately not using that, because without the rest of it, it makes no sense. So this is just to kind of demonstrate like what you can do with these. So, how they work is they send out these very, very high frequency signals, and when they hit something, so the interference between the two signals creates the sound on the object they're hitting. So if I pointed it at me, I become the speaker. Okay, so we could, by sending them into the middle of these perspex things, the perspex itself became the speaker, but you could see there was no speaker there because they're transparent. So it was really, really strange to have this sound sort of wafting past you, coming from a place where it couldn't possibly come from. So it was quite interesting. So these are just a couple of shots. Yeah, and then we had this target, and I'm not going to go into like how we judged whether we'd succeed or not. But the foundation is a bank, so the whole time we were there putting it up, all these guys in suits were walking through and going, and like having these chats in the garden, like that. And then we finally got it all up, dimmed the lights, got everything working, and the top guy walked through in his suit, and he just stood and he went, "Bellissima." So I think we might have succeeded. So this is what it looked like. And the sound on this is faked because you can't record these high frequency speakers. It just sounds crazy. So I actually had to fake this to try and give an impression what it was like. And these are the actual paintings that were in the room next door. This is a student at Siena built a miniature version to show how the information from the internet was triggering the movement of the screens. We had 15 panels that had to be very, very carefully choreographed so they didn't hit each other. So it was quite a headache.
She must love him, or she's just plain stubborn. Or better.
Okay, thank you.